this time, I will call to order the Board of Public Works meeting for May 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mayor Boyd is excused. Alderperson Carpenter.
Here.
Alderperson Esserkan.
Here.
Alderperson Hanson.
Here.
Alderperson Ledvina. Here.
All right, thank you. Number 1, public hearing to levy assessments.
Public comment.
I think public comment is farther down when I looked at this agenda. But I could be wrong.
No.
No, public comment first.
All right. All right. Public comment. Anybody have any comments that pertaining to anything that's not on this agenda?
Pertaining to what?
If you got a public comment for something on this agenda,
Not on the agenda.
not on the agenda, then wait, please. For the virtual, anybody got public comments? Second time, third and final, we will move on. Public hearing to levy special assessments. Notice of public hearing?
The notice of public hearing was published in the Press Times on April 18th, 2025.
All right, Board of Public Works recommendation.
Yep, and the preliminary resolution was recommended at the April 7th Board of Public Works to schedule the public hearing.
All right. Consider impossible action.
Just open up for hearing.
Yep, all right, you're right. Okay, at this time, I will open up the meeting for the hearing of the assessments. Did anybody in the audience want to comment on our, for the assessments on the sewer assessment?
I do.
Sir, give your name, come to the table and give your name.
My name is Pat Schrader. I live at 702 North Washington Street.
Okay,
Is this on?
yes.
Number one, I'm disappointed that the mayor is not here and that the public works director is not here.
He's here.
I'm thinking of Thyssen or,
Scott Thorson?
Yeah, Thorson.
That is Scott Thorson.
oh, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on.
It's, all right.
So my first question is, I've received the letter that said that within 30 days I could pay the whole bill, or then you do the 5-year thing or whatever. When are those bills coming out?
Scott?
Do you want me to take the questions as they come in?
Sure. would
Okay,
you, Eric?
so we assess the project when we're pretty much done with it, meaning when we have all the storm sewer installed and we're out there doing the pavement, that's about the time we'll send the notice of the invoice out. So generally, it's September-ish.
Okay, so it's not until the project is done.
Correct.
Okay,
So after this meeting, we'll send out another notice saying, assuming the assessments are levied, we'll send out a notice that says, here is your assessment, however, this is not the invoice, and you will be invoiced near the completion of the project. So yeah.
okay. That was my question, because I was like, well, if you're gonna charge me now and I don't get my street done until whenever,
Yep.
why am I paying now?
Yep. Yeah, we'll wait till the end of the project.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yes. Would you just give your name and address, please, sir?
I'm Larry Ruffers, 222 Pleasant Place. All of the improvements are great. All of the things that you're doing. You're going to put in new sewer, new water, drain laterals, all of this stuff. Then you want your hook your downspouts up and everything else. But then all of a sudden they send you an assessment, a reassessment for your taxes. You say $2,700 is all it's going to cost you to put in this lateral box. Doesn't say how much you're going to have to pay to hook up to that lateral box. It doesn't say how much the city is going to reassess your taxes after you're done. All of the improvements are great. But, you got a 100-year-old house and all of a sudden you think it's worth $1 million or as much as a 3-story house, on the river. It just, I don't know, it just seems pretty unfair.
I will
wanna
say, I'm not familiar with the reassessment is nothing to do with our project, and it did
Right.
not so I don't know. We do not, our projects do not drive a reassessment. It is an improvement to the property as far as providing a storm lateral for storm drainage. But after we're done with these projects, the assessor doesn't go around and reassess. So I'm not familiar with that, and it is very unfortunate. But our projects are not a driver for the reassessment.
Well, I put in a new sump pump, and all of a sudden they increased my reassessment, shot up the next week. I get a notice in the mail that I increased my assessment.
I don't want to misspeak on this, so, and I'm not the mayor, but assessments in DPR get done. We do them every year as the company comes through, and it goes by the sale of homes the previous year. So where I live, sadly to say, I have gone up probably $15,000 to $30,000 over certain segments, and since the last 10 years, I probably went up over $100,000 on my home.
Huh, I got a 100-year-old home.
You know what I mean? And
The price shoots up sky high, and, it's still a 100-year-old home with a
But-
cement block basement,
and I understand,
It's
so
stupid.
I was,
What the city is doing, or whoever is raising the taxes, they have no consideration for, people that are living there.
well, the assessments come by going by the home sales that were done, and they're valuing your homes comparable to that.
Yeah, so,
So when I have a 3-bedroom home, my home gets assessed at 4 doors down, got sold at $400-some thousand, and now my house is at $400-some thousand.
that's stupidity. I don't know, I
Yeah.
just voicing my opinion,
Yeah.
and, you're feeling the same thing.
Yes, but I'm just gonna say
How- how
these,
can- How can we deal with it? Or who do we have to be after, or who will
Shane.
have to?
Can I just address this for, I used to be the city clerk, so I used to oversee the assessment, the process. You got that letter at the same time that everybody else in the city got a letter. So it had nothing to do with you installing a sump pump. Those letters go out every spring. And the point of the reassessment annually is that the market has been so crazy in the last 6 years. They're just trying to make everyone's home assessment equal to new purchases. So the tax levy, the amount that the city taxes annually, cannot increase. All that's changing are the assessed values of the property, but the amount that the city can take in taxes is not going up because of your assessment going up. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
They're just trying to make sure that all the properties are paying their equal share of taxes. So like this year, I think the average increase was like 7%, 9%? 6% overall for residential properties. Commercial properties went up something like 14%. So, everybody's property is going up about the same amount, should be going up about the same amount.
So
And
your mill rate goes down.
Right. Anyway, I know that's off topic from the agenda, but.
Yes,
I
it's
wanted to explain that
it's off
wasn't
topic.
tied to this process at all.
but we'll just go one step further. Your mill rate goes down, but your assessed value goes high enough that, guess what? The mill rate went down, but taxes still go up. I understand your feels, because I pay taxes too. Okay, anything else, sir? So, Scott, as I look at this agenda here, because when this is sitting up here, I can see this, but this is where I get to pick up all this other stuff that I'm trying to, so right now, we went past there. Yeah, I'm just trying to say.
If you scroll on this.
Okay. Now, this, yeah. That's what we're on right now. So I was just gonna say, when this came out, I have never had a good,
Well, Dan, we want to see if someone else wants to speak.
no, I'm fine. I'm just trying to say, when you look at one file on this thing and you look at another spot, which you're trying to stay agended here, but then I don't get the clips of it. I get this part of the meeting, but I don't get the part that I looked at home. That's the problem is on this.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, you can come up to the desk.
So the letters I've been told is by assessment, is that firm? Or is that going to change?
When it's passed tonight, that's it. It won't change.
Okay? And what would make it change tonight?
Nothing if they didn't approve it.
Then I'll go to recommendation.
So that's the amount. So assuming it's approved tonight, that's the amount that it's going to be. Yes.
Okay. And what would make that change? Who would make that change? How would that occur, that assessment would change? Who's gonna say, I want that assessment higher?
Nobody, because the assessment, we have a policy in place in our ordinance on how we calculate the assessment. And so we calculate it based on the costs of the construction for the last 3 years. And that's what's used to determine the cost of that. So there is no change in that assessment.
Okay,
Yes, that is set.
yeah, so it's approved, there's nobody gonna say.
Correct.
See, 'cause you
We
go
wanna
to
raise
this
it.
No.
and I can get-
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go like this. Is there anybody in the virtual world that would like to speak this time?
I didn't sign up. Can I ask a question?
Sure, you may. Let's come to the thing, state your name and address.
I'm James Hodgson, Hodgson. We live on Talbot Avenue. I have a question about the timing of the construction. And it's based on the fact that we spend most of our summers in Michigan. And obviously would need to be at our De Pere residence at the exact time that the installation of the water line and the sewer line is installed to our house. Is there a way to get a definite timetable that we could coordinate with to be at our De Pere residence?
So the contractor is tentatively scheduled to start at the end of June. However, they've got other construction projects going on right now. And so if those projects get delayed for weather, they're slower than they thought, faster than they thought, that will change our schedule. We do not need you there to do the water service replacement. If you're going to participate in the full lateral relay by pipe bursting, that we would need to make sure you're there. And then for your storm lateral, we just need to know where you want it. But we can coordinate that all with you once construction starts rolling in. Because again, when a contractor starts out there, they're going to make an estimate. It takes so many days to do the water main. Well, if things go faster, slower, that all changes. But we can, you've got my email. You can reach out to me, give me a call. I can get your phone number, and we can coordinate with you. We will know like a week or two in advance, hey, this is when we think we're going to be at your house to do this sanitary lateral. We'll have that idea, but it will not be super long in advance.
But if we had a week or so notice, that would.
Yeah.
That would.
We should be able to work with you on that, correct?
I have a question about the assessment costs. Is that one payment or is that scheduled over several years of your property taxes?
So with the payment plan, there's several options for this one. If you choose to hook up right away, the assessment becomes due right away. However, you can pay that over 5 years. Now, there is another option. If you do not hook up to that storm lateral, you can wait up to 25 years or you sell the property, whichever occurs first. So you can just leave that assessment sit out there. Now, if you go with that route that you don't want to pay the assessment because you're not going to hook up, the interest does accrue for the first 10 years, and then after that, the last 15, it would no longer accrue.
Let's see if I have this correct. There's a sewer, the entire construction would be a sewer line, a new sewer line, and a water hookup. And
A sanitary lateral relay, a water service hookup, and then the storm lateral. And the storm lateral is for sump pumps, roof drains, backyard drains, and that's the only one that's being assessed, is the storm
So
lateral.
do you need to get the storm lateral?
Yes.
Okay, well, okay, I guess I don't know the engineering, but there's three things you need to deal with. Okay, fine, thank you. My wife's asking a question in terms of, we have a yard that has native vegetation, so we want to minimize the damage there. So you come in beyond the sidewalk, you take the sidewalk out, you have to dig a pit, and that goes about how far in from the sidewalk does?
Well, what I would say is, you know, for this, it goes a couple feet. I think the best would be for us to meet out there before you head up north. We have plans, we know where your water service is, we know where your sanitary lateral is, and we can talk about where you want your storm lateral. This would be best for us to meet right out on your property. And then, if you don't want us to go beyond the sidewalk, we don't have to, and we can talk about the pros and cons to that also.
Okay, so there's some options
Yes.
there.
Yeah, I would say that's the best is, you know, give me a call or shoot me an email. We can set something up in the next week to meet out there and take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. We'll break a moment.
I got, you know, I got plenty of weeks up here, so you just let me know. We'll figure something out.
Sure, sir. Meeting's still open.
So I have no documentation of this, but I've been told by the people that own the properties to the north of me going into Ridgeway Boulevard that all of our sump pumps and some of our eave trough drainage, we had an easement going into the storm sewer on Ridgeway Boulevard. And does the city have any documentation of, I don't. I've just been told by my former father-in-law, who was the mayor of De Pere years ago, and the Doc Zovnik, who owned the two places, that there's this easement going into Ridgeway Boulevard. How does that affect me?
So we wouldn't have any knowledge of anything private. Through the years, and there's many different areas in the city, people would get together, some of them would sign an agreement, and they'd put in a private system and hook everybody's sump pumps to it. We don't consider those as a viable option long-term because through the years, the original property owners who signed it are gone. And so if the pipe fails, there's no way for someone who's upstream to go onto someone else's yard and fix it downstream. So we provide a new connection, so that way you've got legal access to the storm sewer for your sump pump and your roof drains. So if it's
So
there,
I would have to connect to.
we would not make you disconnect from a private system, but we're still going to give you a pipe as part of this project.
To where?
We put the pipe to your property line.
And how does that hook up?
Again, I would say, you know, some of these questions, I think it's best if we meet. This is more of the assessment part. We've had some public information meetings, and this is where we bring out the plans with us there. So we'd be more than happy to meet with you at your property, take a look at your property, and kind of, you know, show you what we've got. Because we'll put the storm lateral to your property line in front, and we'll put it on any side of the house you want it. If your sump pump comes out the south side, we'll put it on the south side. If it comes out the north, we'll put the lateral towards the
But
north.
then I'm responsible for.
Correct.
any other stuff.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anybody else like to speak while this public meeting's open? All right, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. So Scott, if I'm following along with this, we're now gonna go to the considering possible action on the resolution of Board of Public Works 25-01 final resolution authorizing the levy of special assessments for storm sewer main and or laterals.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Hanson, second by Alderperson Levina. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, approval of the April 7th, 2025 Board of Public Works meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Alderperson Levina, second by Alderperson Escon. Am I correct?
Yep.
Any discussion? Yes, Alderperson Hanson.
Page 50, second paragraph, second to last sentence, there's a word missing after my name. I think it's supposed to be asked.
We will make sure that gets addressed and put in there.
What did you think it was supposed to be?
Asked.
Asked, okay.
Anybody else have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Consideration, number 3, consideration possible action on 2025 sidewalk repair orders, 822 Pine Street and 825 Cedar Street. Eric?
Yeah, so this is just a follow-up to the meeting. At the last meeting, you approved the orders for sidewalk repairs throughout the city. However, during our meeting with property owners and taking a look at things in the field, we identified 2 properties that were not included on the official order, and those were 822 Pine and 825 Cedar. One of them, the slab was real close to the property line, so it was put on the other property. One of them was just missed. So once we realized this, we did send both properties letters on April 29th notifying them of this meeting, and that if it's approved at this meeting, they would be getting orders. That way they'd have a chance to start taking a look at potential repairs like everybody else and try to give them enough time to do that. So we're recommending the approval for the sidewalk repair order for these 2. And in the past, we normally publish it in the paper, but because we only have 2, we will send them via certified mail.
Thank you. I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendations on that.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, second by Alderperson Hanson. Any discussion? Since there is none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. All right. Dry down, baby. Number 4, update on pond algae discussion.
All right.
Eric?
Yeah, so the purpose of this memo is just to give an update to some of the algae growth in the ponds, particularly the pond off of Franklin and Front Street, the one that was built in 2023 and had quite a bit of algae growth last year. At the October 7th, 2024 board meeting, we did present a memo where we identified some of the issues with the ponds as far as, maintenance, algae growth, impacts of land use, and then we focused a little bit more on the discussion of Franklin and Front Street Pond. I did include the copy of the memo for your review. In that October meeting, we did discuss some additional steps, one of which was to do a little bit of a public education campaign, and then the other was to have our consultant take a look at options to treat the algae growth. So we did do the mailer earlier this year to every property owner identified in the drainage basin, so that did get accomplished. And then the next step is to have Robert E. Lee Ariel, our consultant, take a look and provide some options based on their experience, and that is really the intent of this item today. And their memo has been attached. I'm not going to read through the memo verbatim because I know as much as you'd all love to hear all 4 or 5 pages of it, but I won't do that to you. But really, they kind of give an overview of the ponds and the maintenance and things like that. They do go into some specific discussion regarding algae growth. And they've talked about, one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting, which was what about the potential of aeration and fountains? And in their memo, they discuss the DNR technical standard, which addresses aeration in ponds, and that if you have ponds less than 5 feet permanent pool, it can be a problem because it can resuspend solids. Our pond is designed for 5 feet deep permanent pool. Through time, it will fill with sediment until it hits a depth of 3 feet, and then we will clean the pond. So based on their memo, they did not feel that aeration would be a real viable option. The other thing is, we did briefly talk to the DNR about it, and if you have aerators on the pond, you need to shut them off every time it rains, because the rain is bringing in dirty water, and your aeration is suspending it and keeping it from settling out. So there's a lot of things that, and then back there, we don't have power. We need a new meter, which is a monthly charge, plus the equipment and the electric. So it's not a real viable option. The other thing that they did talk about was algae treatment with chemicals or biological treatment. And that is something that can be done on a pond. They do that type of service for other areas. And if you read through the memo, what they talked about is it's roughly $750 per pond per treatment. A pond can take a treatment of 4 to 6 times per year, and even more than that if it's more of a proactive instead of a reactive stance. So you could be looking at costs of $2,500 to $5,000 per pond per year. So those are other things that you could look at, which I think we've briefly talked about, so that is an option. They also talked about other things that can help ponds, which we've talked about in the past, and that's to try to keep more of a native vegetation, let things grow up natural. If you've been out by the pond right now, there's a nice family of geese that love the pond, and although they look really nice, they contribute a lot of waste to ponds, and geese are not good in ponds. And so it's something, when you have native vegetation, you don't get as much. Other things we can look at is maybe some of the vegetation in the safety shelf. Right now, there is not vegetation growing, although we do believe it'll fill in over time with cattails. But those are some other things that could be looked at for the project or for the pond. I guess really all this is just a discussion, so you can all think about what you want to do. The thing I would caution, whatever we do for this pond, we need to consider what's the circumstance, and then if we don't have a policy in place, it can be open to any pond that people complain. This is a higher visible pond. It is along the trail. We have some of the residents here who are not happy with the look of the pond when it builds up with algae. And I get that, but right now they are the complaints I'm getting, or Alderperson Ledvin is getting.
I'm also complaining.
But, and it's a legitimate complaint, but if we have to treat every pond to that degree, it can be a lot of money. Last year was the first full year the pond was functioning. We could look at other things as maybe we go out there a little more often, and I think there was some complaints this year about some of the debris buildup from bottle cans and soda bottles and things like that, which is really good that we're catching it. Otherwise, that's going right out to the Fox River, and we wonder how all our plastic gets in the bay. This pond is preventing that. So, we could do more periodic inspections, and then maybe when we go out there, take a rake and rake out some of the algae as it's filling in by the outfall. We will never be able to go out there every time and clean up all the algae, but that is something we could look at also. But I would say is some ponds have more algae than others. Last year, several ponds had more algae than they had in the past. I don't know what it was. But whatever we do from policy, from this standpoint, we need to consider it from a policy standpoint, because it can cost us a lot if we're treating ponds. And right now, we've been doing more and more with our ponds through the year. Right now, we got a rodent trapping program. We've implemented Phragmites. Tony's gone out and bought some equipment and is doing a tremendous job maintaining brush around our ponds. So we have been doing more, but this will be another thing that will add to what we're doing on our ponds. And I think we just need to determine where we want to go and what the policy would be.
Thank you. This is a discussion item only, so go ahead.
I have a few
Shayna.
questions. So you said Robert E. Lee handles algae treatment themselves?
Yeah, they've got a subsidiary that's part of them called Northern Ecological Services, NES, I believe it is. And they do pond maintenance, and that would fall under our contract of services, so we would just need to get quotes for it. So it is something they do. We don't have money bonded for it or set aside for it this year as part of our stormwater. So there are options.
Okay. Another question, with those algae treatments, does that affect the growth of the native vegetation, treating the pond?
That I don't know, because they talked about chemical and/or biological treatments. So I think we'd have to have them take a closer look and say, you know, if we really want to go down that path, what would the true treatment be at this location? And then, yeah, we'd have to, you know, it would have to be something that doesn't cause damage, because this is ultimately going to the Fox River. And the thing I will say is the algae is ugly, but we, on a conservation side, the pond is doing its job. All that stuff was going out to the river. So, but yeah, I would say it probably shouldn't, because it can't be released, and it's got to be something that's already approved by the DNR.
Right, okay.
Any other discussion?
I had some-
Go ahead.
So you said there were other ponds last summer that had significant algae growth.
I wouldn't say significant, but had algae growth.
And did we receive complaints about those?
No, we just went and took a look in preparation for this meeting.
Okay. And then of the ponds that we have, I know we have, I don't even know how many ponds we have. The list is pretty extensive. How many of our ponds are that close to residential properties
A lot.
in the city? or
Yeah,
our property?
all the new, so one of them that's really close is in the Daytona Speedway NASCAR track subdivision. That, the people have their swings and stuff right next to the pond. That one's even closer. This one, I would say in all of our newer residential development, when a subdivision comes in, most of the time the ponds are closer than this one. But, you know, obviously then there are ponds for industrial, and those are farther away. So this is kind of in the middle.
And we have quite a few in park space.
We do. We have some in parks, which has been great that we've been able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I would be interested in looking into the algae treatments, especially for newer ponds that are just becoming established. I'm hoping that over time this becomes like the other ponds and, you know, doesn't get that algae growth, but
It's always gonna have it.
what?
You're gonna get it every year. I mean, not every year, but you've actually, in the 20 years I've been here, our existing ponds, some years a pond will have it, some years it won't.
Right.
It's kind of like the Fox River. You can see it turn green sometimes.
Right.
It just, you know, it comes and it goes. So I mean, it'll never go away. It'll always be an issue.
I know, that was the worst I've ever seen a pond before.
Yeah.
Last summer, like it looked like you could walk across it.
Yeah.
Like it was
We had a lot of ponds
And
like
it is
that.
right. I mean, it's right. It's not only abutting residential properties. It's right on the Fox River Trail, and it really was. It was an eyesore, and if there's something that we could do to mitigate it, and I appreciate that you've thrown out some offers for raking and
Well,
trying to keep closer tabs on it this summer.
the thing we could do is, you know, take a look at it and see how it reacts this summer. When we go out there and check it, we'll bring the rakes, we'll rake some of the edges out and stack it. And then if it isn't working, it's bad like last year, you could add it, make a recommendation during the budget process. But I would say we really do need to establish a policy, because if you think of the number, I mean, we have 100 ponds?
Yeah.
If you add that amount of dollars for every pond, that's going to chew up our ability to build additional stormwater management ponds and do the maintenance. So we need to figure out something that justifies that we're doing it here, but we're not doing it elsewhere. I mean, we have high-profile parks, ponds and parks, like you mentioned. Those get every bit of visibility. I mean, it was ugly, but the Fox River at times is quite green and not pretty either. So it is something that we could definitely look at, but I would encourage that we need to take a policy approach, because we could spend a lot of money.
I completely agree.
Go ahead, Scott.
And then just to build on what Eric is saying is, right now our stormwater utility does not cover what we should be doing in as far as maintenance and stuff for all our storm system. You know, we've been baby stepping every year, increasing. I think this past year was $10. The mayor's always, 5 or 10 every year. Just if we were to treat every pond, we'd probably have to increase the stormwater utility $50 just to cover the, stuff. And I would echo what Eric is saying is, let's get it established. see what can be done. You definitely want to have a policy because you will open up Pandora's box. And just like some of the stuff we have when it comes to our, flashing rapid lights for pedestrian crossing. Everybody wants one, but we have a well-established policy to keep it at bay. The policy that Eric's talking about, it's gonna have to be something similar to that if we go on that path,
I
so.
totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm not discrediting any of that. I just had some questions about, like you said, the algae treatments, that's going into the river too. I guess I'd like to know more about that option, if it were something that, we were to move forward with at some point, but.
And like Eric said, we should create a policy, and I understand where these ponds are. That's a small pond. You get on the west side, we got rivers. I hate to say it, our ponds are long, lengthy. There's waves on them, they're big ponds. Get on the west side, industrial park all over. Them are like lakes. I'm just saying, so you don't get the problem. I think the problem, would it be fair to say, Eric, is on your smaller ponds.
I guess it's something we didn't pay a lot of attention to because it hasn't been significant complaints. We do inspect our ponds. No one has noted significant algae, but, the other thing with residential ponds is you do get fertilizing and things like that. And if people aren't careful and they overthrow the fertilizer, it gets in the curb, that goes all into the pond. That's not good.
All right, any other discussion?
I just
Go
have a
ahead.
question. You mentioned the garbage buildup. That's pretty common in all stormwater ponds then, right?
Yeah, it is.
And so how
It
often
is.
are-
So we're checking our ponds every year. We don't go out there. There are certain ponds, I should say, that we do check after whenever we get a flood advisory from the National Weather Service, there are certain ponds that have a tendency to clog. We will check those. The other ponds we'll check once a year. Because, there isn't a lot of debris, but there will be some debris. And so then we'll clean up the garbage.
Okay.
But not every pond, we don't go out after every rain event. But we could look at this pond a little more often.
I mean, if that was something you got on the See-Click Fix app,
They said they didn't want to speak.
someone
She said-
submitted a photo of garbage buildup in a pond, is that something you would send someone down to take care of?
Yeah, or they can email me directly. I really like that. I'm just saying, because then I can file it with my MS4 permit that we took care of it and cleaned it. I'm more than happy to, because I track everything we do in our MS4 permit. We go out and clean it, I track it, so I can show the DNR we're doing stuff.
Okay.
So if a person wants to send me an email, we can look at it.
Okay, thanks.
I noticed some didn't want to talk, but would you like to speak in this discussion? Okay, I'll make a motion to open the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Shayna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Name and address, please.
I'm Nancy Lenhart. My husband Vaughn is here, and my neighbor,
Sorry.
Tony Pizzo. Also, we live right on it, and so we look at it every day. So we notice buildup and that type of thing, and are in communication with our older person, so now we will. I guess what's the plan going forward? Because we were thinking that native plants were a part of kind of the landscaping. You indicated that a native vegetation on the shelf is good. And is that something that can be helped along to happen? I mean, we love wildflowers and that type of thing growing. What is the plan to make it look better because of it being right by the park and the trail? You do want to present a positive image.
Yeah, well, number one, we're going to let all the vegetation that's out there grow. We cut it last year inadvertently. It's not going to be cut. So it's going to be taller vegetation. Now, what I was referring to was the safety shelf. So I was going to see if we get cattail growth around the safety shelf. If we don't, we'll have to look at other options. A lot of times the cattails will come in from the ducks and things like that. Now, if we go to plant certain types of emergent plants, the geese will eat them all. So we can't have geese there if we do that.
Yeah, we
but-
like the ducks. We encourage the ducks and discourage the geese, so.
Yeah, so if one of you has a dog and wants to chase away that family out there,
Well, we're.
but, so I,
Through the plastic, right?
and I saw, well, I was out there and I saw them trying to get to the river and they couldn't, so then
Yeah.
they went back to the pond. I'm like, oh, because
Yeah.
they have the silt fence for the Fox River Trail paving. But anyway, I would say is, let's see what it does this summer. Anything we want to do that we want to modify it, be plantings, algae treatment really is probably a budgeted item. But if you have debris buildup and you want to shoot me an email, you all have my email. I've emailed all of you. And we can send someone out to take a look and clean it. But then we'll see what happens with the vegetation. They used a more native seed mix that was out there when they replanted it. It wasn't a grass seed mix. And then I guess we'll see how that looks and see how if we get cattail growth.
There is a few going.
Yeah, it would be nice if that would take over and fill the safety shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was a nice duck family last summer. They're all male this year. Female. Yeah, so, yeah, we're just encouraging how it looks and if there's any landscape plan or,
You know, and the other thing is we could always, one thing we could do is, but again, we'd have to kind of figure it from a budget standpoint, but we could plant some shrubs out there. We would not want to plant trees. We want to keep the trees away. And if we planted shrubs, we just have to plant them outside of the pond. Because we do have there's a high-pressure gas main out there, and Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District has a sewer. I mean, so we could look at some shrub plantings with our parks just to mix it up. But we really want to see just the regular grassy type, flowery vegetation take over.
because we've noticed in some of the ponds has a direct stone around it with the kind of red twiggy type.
We, on most of our ponds, do not put riprap around the entire pond.
Oh,
Some people do it for more of a decoration. We will put them at the outfall and the inlets, but that's it. We just, because it has a safety shelf in it, so we're not doing any riprap around it. Some municipalities have done it. We might have, I think we have riprap at the Jim Martin Park Pond, but that's an old one, but we haven't.
Because the one at Libel and, what is it, Libel and,
Yeah, that's Jim Martin.
That's
that
Jim Martin.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the one.
Yep.
That's one of our first ponds, but we haven't been doing that since before I started here.
okay. All right, well, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
Yeah, I have questions. I
Name.
was going to come and talk to you guys when we're talking water, but
Name and address, please.
Tony Pizzo, 602 North Front Street. Eric, have you put ponds in established residential areas besides ours in the past? Because I know you're talking about some of the developments and the racetrack place and all this kind of thing, but normally people are going into that area and they see that there's going to be a pond and all that. I mean, you know, I've lived at my place for a dozen years, and then we get a notice saying that you're going to dig up the back and throw a pond in there. So when we look at, you know, is that a normal thing? Are you doing that all the time? And I just never hear about it. But as we look at policy, to me, that makes a difference. I mean, it would have made a difference to me when I first looked at buying my house, if the place was there, especially, or if the pond was there, and especially if it was in the shape that it was in last July. Because, I mean, right now, it's actually quite lovely. I mean, if you get a chance, you should come by and look at it, because the geese are getting to be a bit of a problem. Not quite as much problem as a small herd of deer that hang out in the backyard there too. But I'm concerned that the geese are going to be a problem. But anyway, back to the question, is that a normal thing? And if it's not normal, does that make it easier to write some sort of policy for dealing with it?
I mean, you could use that. I mean, that could be something. Have we built other retrofit ponds? Yeah. In fact, the pond at Optimus Park is a retrofit pond, meaning when I call retrofit because they're built after the development occurred, and we need to put these ponds in to meet our DNR permit.
Yep.
So yeah, and then we're going to be building another one off of Honey Court next year. So they are happening. I'm trying to think. There are probably some other retrofits that are not coming onto my mind right now, but we've been building them.
Yep. And then when you're talking about aeration, I know that there's the fountain type thing that, you know, we see, but there's also the surface bubblers. You know, that the water is only coming up a little bit. You only need a couple of feet of water to actually operate those. I mean, you still have the problem with getting electricity there and that, but they use them in a lot of municipal plants and things like that to aerate the water. And I would think anything that we would do for the pond, we don't want to agitate the bottom. We want things to settle. So we really just want to look at how do we keep that top water fresh, because, living where I live, I get to see all the people coming and going on the trail all the time. And there's a lot, folks. If you don't spend any, you should spend time there if you don't. And it's right outside the park. So when you go by that, and I know in July, I get to see people with their little kids and their families all the time. They come and they look at the ducks and they do all that. It's really quite lovely. And it would be nice to be able to keep it that way. I understand we get algae in the water. You see that everywhere. You can't live here and avoid it. But it's when you're getting stuff that's so thick it looks like you can walk across it. That's just nasty. And it smells, and it really makes it not so nice to live there. Not as nice as it used to be. And, it's affecting the people I think about last summer, people coming by and they make faces at the pond and all that. And right now when they walk by, they take their families to the pond and show them what's going on and all that. I think I'm sorry that it costs something to fix it, but I'm not sorry that it's really a resource that we should add into all the things that we do in this great city. That's why I moved here, because it's a great place to live. And to see something and to let it rot because I don't know why. I don't know why we wouldn't take advantage of doing something with it. I know from your standpoint, it's like, oh, I'm trying to save the city money. I don't want to spend the money and, it's more work and all that kind of stuff. But, we all probably have places that we live, and I'm going to guess that most of us take care of them, even though it costs us money. Well, this is where we live, and this is something that could be nice. There are ways of doing it. And if we have to decide to write a policy that enables us to take care of things that need to be taken care of, I would ask that you do that. I have no power here, other than to tell you I think we're missing the boat by not taking care of it. I guess that'd be it.
Thank you. I think we've gone through everybody here. So I'll make a motion, go back to regular order.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Alderperson Hanson. All those in favor?
Aye.
So Eric, I have one quick question here. So we cut down the vegetation that was technically probably not supposed to be cut down a year or so ago,
Correct.
and then it should all grow back?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I think this is going to be a good year just to see, again, do we get the same algae growth? If we clean it a little bit more with raking, does that make a difference? How does it look when the vegetation gets taller? Just see what it does.
And the only reason I ask, because yes, there's other communities and everything, and I know that's what the DNR is highly recommending, to leave that vegetation get up there, so you may not be able to see the pond like you may want to see the pond, but that it does keep geese and other things
Yeah.
moving and not landing in because they don't have a takeoff spot and everything else. And that's why I was just asking, because I know that's what the DNR kind of is pushing.
Our manicured lawns are just the most wonderful thing for geese, especially by a pond, because they can eat and they can go to the pond when they see danger. They don't like tall vegetation because they can't see the predator in there. So they're a lot less likely to utilize the pond when there's taller vegetation. I say they won't, they still might, but it's a lot less likely.
And that's why so it's going to grow back. Okay. So we will just take this on and move it forward then for more towards a budget discussion, and everything else is what I'm hearing. You good, Shayna? I just asked a question. You keep an eye on
I
him.
said we'll be watching.
You keep an eye on him.
Tell them to mow when they come down the box trail, they
All right.
mow along that.
We're going to move on to item number
Thank you.
5. Consideration and possible action on Merrill Reservoir and Scheuring Reservoir Inspection Project. Anybody make a motion?
Yep. Hi, Dan.
Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Yes. Good evening. Apologize again. My camera's not working. I have to put in a ticket for that. I'm not sure what's up with that. But anyway, so we do have a 2 DNR inspections on our Merrill Street Reservoir and our Scheuring Road Reservoir this year. There are going to be ROV inspections, and as you can see in the memo, our lowest bid contractor, we had some unfavorable reference discussions. So we moved on to our second contractor in the order who did our inspections last year. And we have a good working relationship with that contractor as well. And that's the reason we, for the memo and for using the second contractor in the order.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Shayna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion, I should say, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alrighty. We're on number 6. Consideration of possible action of the 9th Street Tower cleaning and coating repair project. Eric?
Yeah, so this was a project that we had brought before the board. It was a similar project, more extensive. The bids came in over budget for the cleaning and what we were looking at a whole tank overcoating of the tank, and we revised it once we saw those proposals. Felt that we could get some good quality proposals back with a revision of only spot repairs of any possible paint or coating that would be delaminated from the cleaning process, or just the wear and tear of the years that the contractor might find during the cleaning process. And so we resubmitted these the proposals out, and these are the bids that we got back. Basically, 2 of the 3 contractors that had submitted bids the last time, and Slack Painting is again the lowest bid. They have done work on our tanks in the past, especially for cell company tower usage when they do welding on our tanks, and have done good work for that, and their references all came back favorable from Dixon and from KLM, who are other firms that we have used in the past for other contract work as well. So I'd recommend that approve Slack Painting for this project. So
Thank you, Eric.
yep.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Hanson, second by Alderperson Levina. Any discussion? Since there is none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yep, you're welcome very much. Number 7, consideration of possible action on contract service for rugs and towels for Police Department, City Hall, and Municipal Service Center. Tom?
So, doing a little bit of history, we found out that we had contract services for City Hall and Police Department with Baytel for over like 8 years, and they wanted us to renew those contracts. And so I talked with legal, and they said we should bring it back through and go ahead and update the contracts. So then also we wanted to add services at the MSC because we got new flooring there. We wanted to add in some rugs, so that would be part of the package as well. So I went and I priced it out. The contractors were not very helpful with their quotes. They gave me little bits and pieces, so I tried to scramble and put some numbers together. My recommendation is to continue on with Baytel for Police Department and City Hall, being that the contractors didn't give me prices for those buildings, for those quantities and stuff, so my recommendation is to stay with them. They're our current contractor. For the MSC, we have Cintas as a vendor there for our uniforms. So I'm thinking, because they were the low price when I was able to break out that, I will give them a shot at being that we're already using them at MSC to add the rugs with that part of it and then do a new contract. Up and down, we had good luck with the uniforms with Cintas, but the fire department, on the other hand, had a very bad experience with Cintas for poor service. They were supposed to get cleaning supplies and all this stuff, and what they promised, they never got. So I'm a little bit leery of doing this, but I think I've had good luck with Cintas at the MSC, so I'm thinking, let's try it for 3 years. If it works out, then maybe we can go back and price out the contracts for everybody, if that indeed is where we want to go, if the prices are much cheaper. But I would definitely want to, I don't want to just dive all into Cintas and then have issues at the police department and have to come back and redo things. So that's my recommendation, that we leave police and city hall alone and just renew their contracts and then update and create a contract for the rugs and towels over at MSC.
Thank you, Tom.
Got a question?
Want to make a motion and have discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second
Baytown
that.
and Cintas.
Yep, I'll second that. All right, open for discussion there.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that if it works out with Cintas, we could look to add their services to the other two departments, so police and city hall, at the end of the Bay Towel contract. Do we think that Cintas will, in a few years, bid for police and city hall if they didn't this time around?
Yes, they will. It's just that when I asked for the quotes, they only did it for the MSC. And I didn't want to sit there and fight to get quotes out of them, because actually the contracts for police and city hall were due January 1st.
Oh,
So I started going through this process, and so we are already rolled into another year with Bay Towel already, just because it's an auto renewal every year. So we're kind of already obligated to 1 year with them. But again, we can make a decision here if we want to do something different. And I think recommendation from legal is to do a 3-year contract with 2-year possible extensions. And maybe at the 3-year window, we just simply maybe look at Cintas if it works out.
okay. Sounds good.
And Tom, I noticed you had the price breakdown. Is that a weekly price?
That is every other week.
Every other week, okay.
Someone did it weekly in the pricing, but what we tried to do with the math on that one for the MSC is every other week.
Okay,
And try to make it apples to apples.
all right. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Number 8, discussion of snowplow operations, Tony.
With it being 80-something today, I think this is a good chance to
Yeah.
to review last year's snow operation. So in the packet, I did include a number of different items between our event log, the number of times that we responded for snow and ice conditions, our material usage, and then what we've used for salt this year, salt brine, et cetera. Our current policy is and guideline is to address the city residential streets upon 3 inches of snow or more. This year, we've only had a couple of those events. The last 5 years, I don't want to jinx us, but have been relatively minor in the way things have been for snow and winter, but that could change at any given moment. Who knows? So I guess in the review of this, we use roughly 700 tons of salt. Previously, we've been ordering roughly 1,200. We are not going to order for next year because of some surplus that we have on the various sheds that we have, that we are very comfortable that we have enough on hand for future years. We use over 64,000 gallons of salt brine, both for making salt brine for pre-wetting and for anti-icing ahead of the event. And then on our material usage on some of those trucks that you see, they don't register anything. Those are some of our older trucks that don't have the technology for the closed loop system that would read the salt usage. So our drivers are still reporting what they're using roughly based upon the number of buckets in their truck when they dump versus when they fill up. But the rest of this is all pretty scientific off of our AVL GPS system that gives us the totals of what's being used. So we're pretty confident that that is an accurate reading that will give the DNR for MS4, but as well as for our opportunities of getting better in how we're applying our salt during a plow event. We've kind of taken different approaches over the last 6 years from how we used to do it and how their staff's being educated. I did have 2 staff members go to Grand Rapids, Michigan last month to attend the Public Works Snow Conference, National Snow Conference, where they were able to bring back a lot of information and things that we were doing really well and things that other places are doing or different levels of services that they've provided. But this memo and intent and event logs and such was just to give you some information on what we did last year, how it went, the number of times we've addressed it, and then if the board chooses to make any changes to our policy.
Thank you. Anybody have any discussion for Tony? Go ahead.
I appreciate you putting this together, Tony. I like that we do this annually, because I know in the past we've had a few complaints.
Yeah.
And staff, I think, handled it correctly. It's just, residents have questions about why isn't it plowed every time. So I didn't really get any complaints this year. I think staff did a really good job. And I think you've said in the past, Tony, too, that there is a little bit of discretion where, like, if it's going to be 2.5 inches, but if staff feels that it needs to be plowed, you have that discretion, correct?
So it's one of the discussions, we had an event a year or two ago that Scott and I talked after the event. We're going to look at it, depending on how wet the snow is. If we have 2.5 inches of a wet packy, then cold temps coming, things of that nature where we have to take into play, like, what is the aftermath going to be if we don't do it versus doing it. But there may be times where we have 4 inches and it's going to be 50 degrees in the morning, and it's like, that time of year and the sun, the different things that we have to just play that balancing act based upon best interests of the best management practice.
Yep.
Any other discussions or questions? All right, thank you very much, Tony. We'll move on to number 9. Consider possible action regarding SEH's proposal for MSC expansion for additional design and construction engineering services. Is that you, Scott?
Yes, sir. So what you have before you, we're on a contract with SEH right now for design for the expansion at the MSC, which basically is for the equipment, offices, and ADA requirements. So over the last few months, staff has been diligently working with all staff trying to get input on our needs, because, basically we're looking for the expansion that takes place that's going to meet the city's needs for the next 15 to 20 years, with staff, equipment, and all that needs. One of the things that kind of got overlooked a little bit was with adding mechanics in the back, we now have 4 mechanics, is we don't really have facilities to have 4 bays back there for the equipment and maintenance. So one of the discussions working not only with the fleet maintenance team, but talking to SEH is we really need to look at expanding and adding another bay. So those that have been at the MSC before, adjacent to our municipal service, or there in the back, is we have a water bay area where the water department stores their equipment, materials. They have a meter testing room in that area. So talking to our architect, the best thing to do is to, basically do some structural stuff with the roof, and then knock out a wall and actually add a storage area there. Well, with that comes, where do we put the water department? So what I got in the packet, I got an area, it kind of shows you in green the areas we're looking in the back. If you look on the lower bottom right of that exhibit, that's the area we're talking for expansion. Where would we put the water? Well, in between the office area and actually the expansion of the equipment, there's a little area where we were gonna have a drive tunnel, driving between 2 buildings. And it made sense to actually, why not make that an area for our maintenance team, which is actually, both the water department, which would, we move them there, and then we also would have our building maintenance team as well there. So that's one part of the aspect. The other thing is, over the last few years, we have added equipment. So we have roughly 8,000 square foot. You'll see in the green, adding for additional area for equipment. And then the office expansion, it's roughly 1,000 square feet, because we're trying to accomplish not only the needs for office areas, but trying to get stuff to fit. Because one of the biggest things we're trying to get, we've outgrown our large conference room and our conference room areas when we have meetings and that sort of thing, as well as the lunchroom area as we've had staff, seasonal and that sort of thing, getting everyone in the same room. So when we put those minimum requirements in, now we're trying to fit offices around. So in order to get everything to fit, there's a little sliver on the very, left side of your page. So what it is before you is part of the proposal, SEH came back and looked at the cost of doing anything. The amount is 102,650. We did actually, before we even got to this point, we wanted to make sure that the, what we were looking at kind of was within the budget amount of, monies for the, we approved in the 25 budget, which is, 25 million. So based off their estimates and going right now, that can change. Who knows what's going with, 6 months from now when we bid it, that, they felt that we could actually get those accommodations in there with the expansion. And due to primarily, everything, the ADA stuff that got added after my budget, but they still think we can get that in there. But right now, we should be within that budget of 25 mil with the additional expansion they got in your packet.
Alderperson Levina.
There's 2 green areas by the wood shop and the sign shop.
Yep.
What's that?
So that's the area I should have started when I was explaining that. The very long area, that's the water area we're talking about. We would expand the bay.
Okay.
And that small green area, so what it is if you've ever been back there, is we call a high lift, lift for lifting equipment, like our garbage trucks and stuff. We only have one bay right now for it because the roof of it has to be so high. And so like your common vehicle, like your own personal vehicle, you don't have a high roof, but the garbage trucks or even the ambulances that go on there need a high lift area. So what they need to do is remodel that roof area, which comes with structural issues, to put in another high lift jack, because with all our large equipment, our garbage trucks, our dump trucks, the public safety vehicles, that hoist is always used, and we like the secondary one so we can be doing additional work on it.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Hanson, second by Alderperson Levina. Any more discussion? Because the discussion came the wrong way.
That's okay though.
That's all right. So they get for late notices. All righty. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, consideration and possible action on proposed easement project 25-01, 823 North Broadway Street. I make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
I think it's, oh, you're right. You're right, sorry. I'll second it.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, seconded by Alderperson Hanson. Any discussion? Since there is none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 11. Get right where I want to be on this computer. I'm getting it figured out now. Consideration of possible action on award of contract 25-07 curb repair and street resurfacing.
I'll make a motion to approve the northeast asphalt bid.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Hanson. Motion by Alderperson Levina, second by Alderperson Hanson. Any discussion? Go ahead, Alderperson.
The ledge use share of O'Keefe Road, is that roughly 50/50?
Yeah, it's pretty close. So it's based on road frontage and then specifically who has what for curb and gutter on their side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think I might have asked this before, but I'm just wondering about, we're only going to Red Wing Trail and not all the way to Jordan?
Yeah, because that's newer pavement over there,
Oh,
the
it is?
last block.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question on this. Is there the water and sewer and any things being replaced?
The only thing being done with water is we're replacing some hydrants on Good Hope.
Okay, so I had a constituent ask this question, so I'm going to bring it up. Why does the water department then have to pay that share? That I'm not going to jump into it, but I think it's like 70-some thousand when I looked at this, and I'm comfortable where I am right now, so I'm not going to go.
73.
Yeah, I was just saying it was 70-some thousand when I looked at this. Could somebody just explain why the water department's put in a bill that has nothing to do with water, or very limited?
So the only reason there's water in here is because there are water specific work. We have, in fact, I don't know if I'll have time to look at, let me take a look here. So if you look, we had certain funds allocated for water, but we will only spend the money that it costs to do the water. So take a look at the bid tab on the next page. If you look at the water main, we've got 5 hydrants that need to be replaced. That's 40,000. We've got a connection to existing. So there's specific water main items on this project, and that's the reason the 73,000. So it's not, we're not, we specifically have water items, and then there's just a little bit extra in there in case they're, like a contingency, but.
Yeah, and I get it, and this way I can tell the
Yep.
constituent they can listen to this and get their answers right there. Was the question, why is the water paying for this?
Yep.
And our rates our rates go up and different things, and they were thinking we're just footing the bill for some other projects.
Nope.
So now I can just tell them to listen to. Thank you very much. All righty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, thank you. Now we're on number 12. Consideration possible action on award of contract 25-08 internal sewer spot repairs.
Make a motion to approve a Quilus bid.
And I will second that. Motion by Alderperson Hanson, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. Any discussion? Since there is none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 13, consideration of possible action on election of vice chairman. At this time, I'll open up the floor if somebody wants to make a motion.
I would like to nominate you, Alderperson.
All righty.
I don't know if
You've
want to
earned
say
it
after tonight.
Well, I'd just like to be a little more prepared when I come in a little bit to a meeting. That's all I like to say. Is there any other nominations? I'll consider the nominations closed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
No, you don't have to swap, you can stay there.
Yeah. All right. Number, consideration possible, discuss GV 15 retaining wall.
So I'm sorry. So at our last board meeting, it was requested to kind of get an update. If you recall, that the board talked about and went to council about the retaining wall aesthetic. So straight after that meeting, I emailed the Brown County Highway Commissioner. You have that in your packet, his kind of discussion. Ultimately, what they're waiting for is, what is that railroad bridge design going to be? There's just too many moving parts right now, trying to work it out with the railroad as far as, the design of that bridge. Because once that design of that bridge is set, then basically, the wall falls into place for design. And as far as the type of wall, you mentioned that still hasn't, been hammered out. One of the talks about it was, we talked about the smoother panels and stuff like that. If they go at a certain wall, you can't have the smoother panels in case you wanted to, paint them or do some type of art on them. So basically, right now is, the final decision on what the aesthetic part, they don't have any answers for.
Anybody else have any questions for Scott? So would this be fair to say it's pretty much, they take in consideration what we have to say, but they make the final decision?
Yes, they definitely will take our consideration, but they can't be given a definite direction where they're going until the other design pieces.
Right, and I understand that, but
Yep.
the overall, it's.
Yes,
Yes,
correct.
okay. All right, that was a discussion, and now we'll go to number 15, discuss GV-16 bridge.
So the bridge was the same thing. The top part of the bridge, I call it superstructure. That's everything that's, above the girder lines, your rail, this type of railing, the bump outs, a cut stone. That hasn't changed. They're moving forward. They're fine. That was part of their recommendations. They're moving forward with that. One of the things that has potentially going to change. They had a value engineering study done on the bridge for cost savings. And one of the things they're now reevaluating the pier looks. And what the piers are is the columns or different things that you see that they'll go into the water, the bedrock, and it come up out. And that's kind of some of the aesthetics we talked about here at the board and council, what's going to occur. Right now, they don't know what that design is going to be. I'll give you an example. For, like the Claudel or even what you saw here, it's a full, column, like a square column, all the way from the river, all the way up holding the structure. Now they're looking at some of their engineering evaluations. If you ever see bridges as you're driving down to Manitowoc, or let's say the Fox Valley, they have columns supporting a crossbeam, circular type columns. That could come out of the water and be a totally different design. So they're still working on this. It's really called the substructure part of it. They're working on that design, trying to figure out the details and which way they're going to go. So we may be coming back to the board and council. Now it's a totally different type of design, and here's what we're going for. So that part is way up in the air, and they have no idea, what it's going to be at this point.
Alderperson Hanson.
So Scott, Commissioner Hardy mentions about the drilled shaft option might not allow for aesthetic treatment. Is that staining that we were talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
The stamp look, the stain,
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And then that's what like you're saying, Scott, this bridge goes completely down where this would be bases, and then there'll be a form over the top, kind of going up with the structures.
At the top, correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So typically, if you look at, let me borrow your pen right there. A round circular, if you had, a column coming out of the ground, you might have 2 or 3, and there'd be a beam coming across the top would sit on. This is the part that goes in the water they're trying to determine. Once that's set, then you have a cross beam where everything up, then you can determine what's going to happen.
Is that like a more cost-effective way of building it?
So what they did is, they say it is. There was some initial cost savings of, $1 million or so. They're evaluating that more. But one of the things that they're trying to evaluate is there's only a certain amount of contractors that can do it in river, as far as doing that. Because if you're drilling it on land, it's typical, you kind of drill a shaft and you pour your circular column and go down. When it comes to the bridge, in the water where you have to get down to bedrock, and stuff, that's a different type of constructing technique. And there's a limited amount of contractors in Wisconsin to do it, especially your big boys like Alunda, for example, that did our bridge. Some of those big contractors, they don't even specialize in that type of construction in the river. So they're trying to evaluate the pros and cons, and then determine. So if there's limited in Wisconsin, now am I pulling them out of, way down south to come up here?
Yeah.
Those drive costs. So that's why they're still doing that engineering evaluation on costs, because, the county is trying to do diligence and save money on the bridge, because as we indicated earlier, that $50 million grant we got for the bridge, if we don't use that all, we've been given authorization by the feds, it can be carried over to GV 15, which is a railroad bridge, which is going to add $10 to $15 million on cost right now we weren't expecting. So they're trying to do their diligence on the county side. If we can save a couple mil here, to push it over here, that's what they're trying to do.
Yep.
So they're taking a step back on it right now.
Anybody else have any questions for Scott? All right. Future agenda items. Anybody has future agenda items? There are none. All right. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, second by Alderperson Hanson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.